Japan's decision to deliver its first domestically produced Patriot PAC-3 interceptors to the United States represents far more than a simple transfer of military hardware. It is a moment that encapsulates the evolving security landscape across the Indo-Pacific, the deepening interdependence of U.S. and Japanese defense industries, and Tokyo's steady but unmistakable shift toward a more assertive and outward-facing security posture. For Washington, the interceptors relieve pressure on a missile defense inventory heavily strained by global commitments. For Tokyo, the export marks a historic break from decades of self-imposed constraints on lethal arms transfers. And for regional rivals, especially China, this development signals a Japan willing to participate more directly in shaping the balance of power in East Asia. At the core of this move is the Patriot PAC-3 interceptor itself, a missile that embodies the technological sophistication and strategic value of modern air and missile defense. Manufactured by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries under license from Lockheed Martin, the PAC-3 is designed around a hit-to-kill concept, relying on kinetic impact rather than a high-explosive warhead. This allows for extraordinary precision against ballistic and cruise missiles in the terminal phase, an advantage increasingly relevant as adversaries field maneuvering re-entry vehicles, low-flying cruise missiles, and complex saturation attacks. The more advanced PAC-3 MSE variant, equipped with a larger dual-pulse motor, improved aerodynamic surfaces, and enhanced actuators, nearly doubles the engagement envelope. With intercept altitudes approaching 20 kilometers and range extending beyond 60, the system gives defenders more time, more distance, and more flexibility to defeat incoming threats. Operationally, the MSE significantly enhances the density of fire that Patriot batteries can generate. A single launcher, which once held 4 older PAC-2 missiles, can now carry up to 16 PAC-3 class interceptors. That scaling effect matters enormously when commanders anticipate multi-axis salvos or need to preserve magazines for prolonged engagements. In a theater where China and North Korea are pursuing increasingly sophisticated ballistic missile technology, and where the specter of a Taiwan or East China Sea crisis is never far away, the capacity to fire more interceptors, more quickly, and more accurately is not just a tactical improvement but a strategic necessity. For Japan, the decision to export these interceptors is the direct outgrowth of its 2022 national security strategy. That document names China as the most serious and long-term challenge to Japanese security, calls for defense spending to rise to 2% of GDP, and commits the country to acquiring standoff counterstrike capabilities. Easing restrictions on lethal arms exports is a pillar of this shift. Tokyo's choice to send PAC-3s to the United States, still bound by U.S. licensing rules that required Washington's approval, is therefore symbolic of a larger ambition, to transform Japan from a primarily defensive consumer of Western technologies into a contributor to the broader military strength of the U.S.-led security network. Industrial interdependence plays a major role in this evolving posture. Japan currently produces around 30 PAC-3 interceptors annually, a modest but increasingly vital contribution to global Patriot inventories. Reports suggest that Tokyo and Washington have identified pathways to doubling this output once supply chain bottlenecks, especially those involving Boeing-manufactured components, are resolved. U.S. Ambassador Rahm Emanuel has been particularly vocal in urging Japan to integrate more deeply into U.S. and allied weapons production. The logic is clear: as the United States supports Ukraine, reinforces NATO's Eastern Front, sustains commitments across the Middle East, and prepares for potential high-intensity conflict in the Indo-Pacific, it cannot afford to rely solely on domestic production lines. Japan, with its world-class manufacturing base, offers a reliable and politically aligned partner in building the arsenals required for long-term strategic competition. Washington's request for Japanese interceptors underscores the pressure on the U.S. missile defense enterprise. Patriot batteries and interceptors are deployed from Europe to the Middle East to the Western Pacific. Ukraine depends heavily on Patriot to counter Russian missile attacks. Allies such as Poland, South Korea, and Taiwan continue to field or expand their Patriot capabilities. Meanwhile, the United States is experimenting with integrating PAC-3 MSE interceptors onto Navy surface combatants, where they would form the terminal layer of a naval defense system designed to defeat hypersonic glide vehicles and maneuvering anti-ship missiles. All of this demands a steady, resilient supply of interceptors, something Japan can now meaningfully help provide. Predictably, China has reacted sharply to the news. Chinese military commentators have framed Japan's first lethal weapons export to the United States as evidence of Tokyo abandoning its pacifist constitution and edging closer to remilitarization. In Beijing's narrative, the Patriot transfer fits into a broader US-led effort to encircle China, strengthen alliances around Taiwan, and shift Japan into a more aggressive role in regional security. This message aligns with long-standing Chinese concerns about Japan loosening its arms export rules, deepening its alliance with the United States, and participating more actively in deterrent strategies that could complicate China's military options. But this narrative overlooks a critical reality: Japan's security environment has deteriorated more rapidly than at any time since the end of the Cold War. Chinese air and naval incursions around the Senkaku Islands have surged. North Korea continues to test advanced ballistic and cruise missiles with trajectories designed to evade or overwhelm missile defenses. Russia, though heavily engaged in Europe, has expanded security cooperation with China in the Pacific. For Japanese policymakers, these trends confirm that the old model, strict self-defense, constrained arms exports, and minimal involvement in allied weapons production, is no longer sufficient. Exporting PAC-3s to the United States is not a provocative escalation but a logical response to a regional balance increasingly shaped by long-range missiles, gray-zone coercion, and high-end military modernization. Japan's move also reflects a quiet but meaningful shift in how the U.S.-Japan alliance functions. Historically, the alliance was defined by America supplying advanced systems and Japan hosting forces and providing financial support. The PAC-3 export signals a new phase, one in which Japan contributes directly to U.S. and allied military stockpiles, strengthens the resilience of shared supply chains, and takes on a more proactive role in collective defense. In practical terms, this means that in any future contingency, whether in the Taiwan Strait, the East China Sea, or the broader Western Pacific, Japan will be more tightly integrated into planning, logistics, and operational readiness than ever before. Ultimately, the delivery of PAC-3 interceptors to the United States may appear modest in scale, but it is strategically significant. It strengthens U.S. missile defense capacity at a critical moment. It marks Japan's emergence as a co-producer and supplier within an allied arsenal network. It reinforces the credibility of Japan's new security strategy. And it sends a clear message to both allies and adversaries: the Indo-Pacific's most important democratic partnerships are evolving, adapting, and preparing for an era in which high-end deterrence, and the industrial base behind it, will matter as much as diplomacy or military presence.